You so much. Thank you for having me here and for inviting me to such a beautiful community. I always enjoy coming to these conferences. Good morning from Canada and good evening, good night, good afternoon to everyone else all over the world. The topic today is going to be about emotional intelligence, and I decided to make a little bit of a twist in it. So it's about how to use emotional intelligence to feel self-empowered. So let me start by sharing the slides, but let's check again if you can see them. All right, so let me see.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
we can see them.
All right, but can you see it in, okay, wait.
Yeah, it's in presentation mode.
It's in presentation mode. So if I move it, you can
Yeah,
see?
we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Great. Excellent. So, yeah, how to empower ourselves through emotional intelligence. Now, I don't know what the level of experience you have with emotional intelligence. I'll try to relay my message by starting with an example from my own life so that you understand how emotions can impact us. So, I'm going to share with you, like when I was a new entrepreneur, and this was like maybe 16 years ago. So I was a new entrepreneur. I was excited and driven. I wanted to support leaders and organizations. I wanted to, help people the way that I love to help people, grow their leadership, coach them, etc. So, and I was given a golden opportunity. One of a person I know, someone from my network, they gave me an opportunity to present in front of a group of leaders, and they were looking for leadership support. So that was a great opportunity for me. So I said, "Oh wow, this is exciting! I'm going to be there. I'm going to share with them what I do, and perhaps I'm going to get a chance to work with some of them." On my way to the meeting, like driving in the car, I started hearing that voice in my head, and probably many of you can really identify with what I'm saying. So that voice that started telling me, "Oh, you're going to fail. No, this is not going to work. These people are amazing people. Why are they going to work with you? Who said they're going to trust you? You're not good enough. You're not ready. You need to perfect things. Work more, get some more certifications. Work more on yourself, etc., etc." So I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with this voice that was going on in my head at that time, and of course, I felt like a big load on my shoulders, and my heart was beating faster. I even felt like a tight chest. But what I did at the moment was what I had learned all my life. I ignored it. And I said, no, I'm not going to listen to this voice. I'm just going to focus. And I kept going. So what were the outcomes? I got to the meeting, I presented, they asked questions, and everyone said, "Oh, good job. So we'll connect with you if we need anything." And guess what? They never did. And of course, it was easy for me to say, well, yeah, well, simply they didn't need my skills or my credibility, but I didn't buy that. Something in me, like my gut feeling was saying there was something more. And today I know that there was something more because in that moment, what happened was that fear that was created from that voice, which I ignored and I did not acknowledge, it actually hijacked me. It hijacked my presence and my confidence and my ability to build trust with those people in that meeting room. And I'm pretty sure many of you have been in a similar situation, maybe not presenting to leaders, but presenting to someone else. Maybe your board, maybe your management team, maybe your executive team, maybe not in presentation, in a different environment, maybe during networking. So emotions really impact everything we do. They impact the way we see the world. They impact the way we navigate things, the decisions we make, the relationships. So in order to understand better why does this happen, I'd like to share with you the background of this, so the neuroscience behind it, and what happens in our brains when we are going through these emotions. Can you all see the slide on my, can you see the brain?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So if we look here, I want you to know that we have six different brains. Okay, so six small brains. And one of them, which I want you to pay attention to, is the prefrontal cortex. So it's the area here, which is, the area, the executive brain. And this area behind our forehead, Dr. The first doctor who, Dr. Walida, talked about creativity and innovation. This area of the brain needs to be very active if you want to give out creativity and innovation. Even when you want to do critical thinking, when you want to do, when you want to see things in a good perspective, when you want to have good judgment, problem solving, even connecting with people and building trust, you need this part of the brain to be active in order to do these things. On the other hand, there's another brain, which is the survival brain. So the survival brain is the area at the base of our skull, which is the primitive brain. The primitive brain is the area that protects us. It allows us to really fight the threats that are out there, or perhaps run away from threats. So to keep ourselves safe. So when we're working from our primitive brain, we're, surviving, but we're not thriving. And that's why, Dr. Walida mentioned how in fear, we cannot be creative. Why? Because fear activates the primitive brain. So when we are in fear, like I was driving to that meeting, so my brain was telling me things that created fear in me. Now, I didn't acknowledge the fear at that time. I pretended that it wasn't there, but it was actually activating my primitive brain. And I wasn't really functioning at my best in that meeting. So I wasn't able to connect with them. I wasn't able to answer the questions in the way that I needed to. I wasn't able to listen well, all because I was in fear and my primitive brain was active rather than my prefrontal cortex. So this is the impact of negative emotions on us. They activate our primitive brain and they block our prefrontal cortex. So we do not have access to our prefrontal cortex. On the other hand, when we're in positive emotion, the opposite happens. Our prefrontal cortex is activated. So when you take that walk that Dr. Walida told you about, you relax, you're at peace, you're at calm, and you're allowing your brain to just wander. And that really enhances creativity because it activates the prefrontal cortex, as she was mentioning. So why do these things happen? I want you to know that an emotion is not just a feeling. It's a state, a full state. What do I mean by full state? I mean that it's a bunch of thoughts, feelings, physical changes, and behavior. So when I am going through any thought, okay, or if I am encountering anything in the environment, I'm going to think about that, right? There's cognition about that thing that I'm seeing. So an experience I'm going through, I'm thinking about it in a certain way. So these thoughts that are coming up, which are very subjective, by the way, because they're based on my life, my previous experiences, who I am, my priorities, my values, my needs, etc. So I'm thinking of the situation in a certain way. Is this thinking will create a feeling. And it will create physiological changes because it will create cortisol or oxytocin or dopamine, certain hormones that are going to go into your body and they're going to impact different areas of your body. And all of this will factor in and will decide on a certain behavior that I will do. If I'm not aware of this system, my behavior will be driven by my emotion and my feeling. But if I am aware, I can address that and shift my behavior. So if I go back to that example that I gave you, that simple example, I did not acknowledge my emotion there. So my fear was driving my behavior. Probably my voice was not loud. Maybe my posture was not even, a confident posture. Maybe I was hesitant. Maybe the words I was using were not words of confidence because I was in fear. So all of these are the physiological changes and the behavioral changes that were going through me at that time, and I didn't know. So I fell prey to that feeling of fear. It dictated how I behaved, and that behavior dictated the results that I got. And that's why emotional intelligence is important, because it's about understanding what's happening in me. Why am I behaving this way? Where is the source of behavior? What emotional state is causing this behavior so that I can change my behavior and get better results and success? You know, some people are afraid of emotions. They try to ignore them, like I did at that time, 16 years ago. I wasn't aware of emotional intelligence yet. So the thing I want to tell you is that emotions are simply data. So like all the data that we have been seeing in the sessions before and all the research that has been done, this is internal research. It's telling you about who you are, what you need, what you value, what is important to you, how you're seeing things, why you're scared, etc. So it's telling you about you, who you are. When you neglect this data, you don't you miss out on important information about yourself. And that's why the decisions you make will probably be logical decisions, but they won't be the best decisions for you as a human being. And this thing is becoming, you know, emotional intelligence is becoming more and more important now with the rise in artificial intelligence, you know, as we saw, you know, in the second session that we saw, you know, about AI in health and in diagnosis, etc. Again, the relationship between the doctor and the patient is going to become very important for doctors to stand out. Why am I going to go to this doctor, not to that, etc. So all of that, the emotional intelligence needs to be there. For you to build good relationships, you need to be aware of your own emotions and other people's emotions. And that's what EI is about. And we have a lot of research that shows that EQ is very much correlated to success. So your success depends, you know, it's dictated by EQ, like 45 to 60% of your success comes from emotional intelligence and not from IQ. IQ only is correlated to like 15 to 20%. And of course, it differs by the level you are in the organization. The higher up, the more emotional intelligence you need. So your career depends on you developing your emotional intelligence. So how do we do that? How do we develop our emotional intelligence? Simply, we develop it first step. Okay, the first step is through emotional self-awareness, is by being aware of that emotion. By stopping myself while going to that meeting when I was afraid and saying, I'm not okay. I'm hearing these voices, and these voices are creating fear in me. So me stopping there and acknowledging that is like 50% of the solution. So how do we develop emotional self-awareness? Simply follow these three N's. Number one, notice that emotion. So notice that you are going through an emotion. Don't ignore it. Don't ignore that tightness in your neck or the pressure on your shoulders or the tightness in your chest or, you know, the gut feeling that you have. Don't ignore them because these are all physiological signs that you're going through some type of emotion. So notice it and name it. So for example, if I ask you now, I know the chat is disabled, but if I ask you now, take a moment and ask yourself, what are you feeling now? What would that be? I don't know if anyone would like to unmute themselves and just say, but what are you feeling this second? Now, some of you might not be able to name what they're feeling, and that's okay, because that's what research shows, that a big part of us, many of us, a big percentage of people, they cannot name their emotions because we're not used to having that emotional vocabulary. So we're not used to doing this. This is something weird for us. But the more we try and the more we focus on it, the more our brain will give us that information. So don't worry if you can't name it now. If you train yourself, you will get there. Now, why is this important? Because when you notice and you name, research shows that the impact on the brain, so the activation in your prefrontal cortex is enhanced, and the area, which is the amygdala, that actually activates the fear in your primitive brain gets deactivated. So it's downregulated. So there is evidence that shows the more you talk about the emotion and what you're feeling, the more you can control it. So the third thing is navigate that emotion. And what do I mean by navigate that emotion? I mean, simply try to map these four components. What's happening? Okay, I am feeling excited, let's say. Why am I feeling excited? What am I thinking? Oh, I'm thinking that this is a great opportunity for me. I'm going to meet some great people. I'm going to create some good relationships. So those thoughts are increasing the excitement. And what's happening in my body? I feel light. I feel energetic. I feel like I want to run. Okay, so I have energy. So, and this is making me feel more confident, talk more vibrantly, speak at a fast rate, etc. So, whatever it is, so also positive emotions have these four components, not just negative emotions. So, when you notice these four different components, you're understanding that emotion better. And why is this important? Because if you want to change your behavior, you need to change the thoughts, which will directly change the feeling, and then the behavior is changed. If you just go after, oh, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to stop smoking. Well, you stop maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, but then you go back, or 1 month, 2 months, and then you go back. Why? Because you didn't really understand what was the state, what was the feeling that was driving you to go and smoke. Was it anxiety? Was it stress? Maybe if you relieve the anxiety and the stress, you won't need the smoking habit, etc. Now, this is one example, but there are many, many examples. So us understanding these four components will allow us to change the thoughts. And once we change the thoughts, the whole experience changes and the behavior will follow. And that's the way we change long-term behavior. How do we change the thoughts? Well, simply by asking questions. Now, these are some examples of questions, but of course, there are many, many other questions. So, for example, me on that going to that meeting, if I had noticed that was filled with self-doubt, thoughts of self-doubt, perhaps I would have asked myself, is this true? Am I really, worthless and not good enough and I need to be perfect? No, who says that? And just by throwing some doubt on those thoughts, the intensity of that emotion goes down. And then if I shift myself and say, no, I'm actually really good. This is a situation where I handled it very well. I was able to build trust, etc. If I remember a situation where I was able to be good at whatever I wanted to be, then this will reinfuse me with positive emotion. So by that, I am reducing the intensity of the negative emotion and I'm enhancing the intensity of another positive emotion that's going to allow me to open up my prefrontal cortex and be able to function at my best. So in summary, emotions impact our behaviors, our decisions, our relationships, and our success. And it's important to develop emotional intelligence to be able to self-regulate and change the behaviors that are stopping us from achieving the success that we want. How do we do that? Simply pause, breathe, don't react. Give yourself that, micro moment to just pause, notice what you're going through, do the 3 N's, notice, name, and navigate that emotion, and then shift your perspective, work on shifting your perspective. And at the start, it's not going to work out immediately and instantaneously. But if you're intentional about it, even if you do this analysis after the behavior was done and your reaction was done, it's still good because it's creating new neural pathways in your brain about how to navigate that. And it becomes faster and faster, and then it becomes instantaneous. You can do it while you're in the emotional situation. So please don't expect that you're going to start doing it now, but start trying now because with repetitions, you will get there. Last but not least, there are some resources. If you'd like, there's a free guide to EI. You can download my free guide. It will also help you better understand, more about emotions. And I have a lot of, very short 35, 45-second, 1 minute videos on YouTube. They don't take a lot of time, but they give you a lot of information around emotions, building trust, and emotional intelligence. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you were able to see the slides. If you have any questions, please just unmute yourself and you can ask me directly. Oh, so you were able to write in the chat. Dr. Walida said feeling calm. Excellent. Great. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, so I hope that was clear, and that's why you don't have any questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that insightful and engaging